And Honorable, the indefatigable Mutala Mohammed is here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I trust you well.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, I didn't have a comment. I hope you're not upset this morning. Honorable comment.
I can't be well.
You can't be well, of course you can't be well.
I can't be well because
I know. And we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Let me just introduce Nanat this morning too. Good morning, sir.
Good
I trust you well. But Amana says hi.
I could have been better.
You could have been better.
Sure.
Oh, why? Why? You're not better?
Oh, how can I be better if the president is still spending the taxpayers' money nyafu nyafu?
Oh, the president, there, maybe I would do there. He's better. He's worse than a dead goat.
Wow.
What is she? Oh, maybe I would do there. How can I deaf and dumb? Anyway, we're going to be dealing with a number of issues like I intimated. But before then, I think it's instructive that I sell something to you. Look, I have been saying this, that as a young person, we are living in uncertain times. And so it's important that you invest and you invest wisely. Now, what is an investment? You know, sowing seed into your future is very, very crucial. Now, I am telling you this morning that it's important that you purchase a land, or at least own a land. Charlie, so you can actually build 1 or 2 rooms to avoid renting. You know how much right now it costs for you to rent a single room, oh, 450 Ghana cedis a month. 450 Ghana cedis a month. If you put all those monies together, you can actually acquire a piece of land. So I'm recommending Trassaco Springs to you. Now, when people hear the name Trassaco, they get, you know, all scared and frightened and things like that. You know, yeah, of course, Trassaco has built a brand. But upon looking at the current situation and looking around us and seeing that it's impossible for them to continue to serve the high echelons or the upper class in society, we've decided to, you know, just bring it down to our level. So for everybody, if you intend to acquire a parcel of land, it's very easy for you to do that. They're going to actually give you a service plot. They're going to give you terms of payment. So you're going to be paying it over a period. You're not going to be paying it at, you know, at a go. And the place has water, it has security, it has all the amenities that you would need. You can also build your own house if you want. If you want them to build for you, they can also do that. So I want you to call Trassaco Springs now, do your own inquiries, and make sure that as a young man, when you get something small, don't chop them.
As a young person.
As a young person. Yes, young person, yes. Both men and women, yes. Thank you very much. Don't chop it in your mouth. Don't chop it nyafu. Save some, invest. It's very important. Call Trassaco Springs on 055 659 2658. 055 659 2658. Call them. Tell them that Kwame Usudanso of Pan-African Television recommended them to you. And so you are making inquiries and possibly purchase a piece of land. It's very, 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 very important. Please, invest. Invest in your life. Invest in the life of your unborn children. Good morning again, gentlemen. I'm coming straight to you, Honorable Murtala Mohammed, MP for Tamale Central. Now, clearly, what we woke up to over the weekend is unpleasant. And all of us have condemned it. In fact, the police has issued a statement and interdicting the persons who were involved. But give us the clearest of accounts as to what occasioned on that day, please.
Well, good morning. Good morning to your cherished viewers and, of course, the good people of Tamale. I just want to begin by saying that I can understand the rage or the anger of our people. And I just want to commend them for the restraint that they have exercised and commend the Lamanshana for ensuring that the youth remain calm. If the Lamanshana hadn't done that, I believe that we would have been counting a number of dead bodies, because clearly the anger with which the youth wanted to respond, of course, responding against, you know, arm-wielding police officers, several lives would have been lost. So I want to commend the Lamanshana for demonstrating that outstanding leadership and in restraining the youth from engaging in any form of response. Let us also be reminded that the Lamanshana is not just any chief, he's a paramount chief. As a matter of fact, who has several divisional chiefs under his authority. I don't know, Kyodi, whether driving DV number, police cars, is an illegality in this country. The last time I checked, it is not illegal to drive a car that is unregistered, except that you do not have the logbook. If I buy a car, maybe a new car, the number that they give you is the DV. Now, you have a logbook that before you register the car, you can still use it within a particular period. And as and when you want to use it, you must log in. I think that the times you can't use the car is after 6 o'clock. After 6 o'clock, a number that is not registered, that is DV, you ought not use the car. And even if you are using it before 6 o'clock, you must enter the log, because the registration also takes another process. So it is not illegal. Exactly. So the police would, you indicate that I'm moving about the car from Accra, I'm going to Tamale with it, and then all those things, the law permits that. So it is not illegal to drive an unregistered car, except that you have no justification or reasons why you drive it. The information I got yesterday, and I need to be very careful here, because the information is the information that was narrated to me, not just by one person, by several people who live in that area. That particular area is where my mom was giving birth to. My grandmother lives in that area, and I grew up in that area as part. In fact, sometime in my life I was in that area, so I know the area very well. The information I got was that there was a roadblock mounted by the police to, apprehend people who were driving unlicensed cars. And I'm told there is this Togo car that people bring inside cars that are not registered. And let me also be very clear that I will not condone any illegality. And anybody engages in any act that is illegal, the police can arrest such a person, send the person to court, and let the court determine whether the action of such a person is legal or not. The only institution mandated by law to determine the wrongfulness or otherwise of any action of any citizen or individual is the court and not the police.
Absolutely.
So that when the gentleman was driving, and upon realizing that there was a roadblock mounted by the police, he took another turn. The police pursued him. Then he drove to the chief's palace. If you know the chief palace, he has a very huge compound. In fact, there is even a mosque just by the palace. Now, when he drove there, they shot at him. And for me, I don't think that there is any police force in this world that will engage in such barbarism. With all due respect to the people in Somalia, I really don't think that a Somalian police force will do what they engage in, because it is just completely unacceptable. Kiodi, this is not the first time they have done that. In my area, where I was giving birth to Changle, there was an incident that happened just before the 2020 elections, that a police officer went there to effect arrest. And a young man allegedly manhandled the police officer. Now, the attention of the chief in that area was drawn to that. And the police actually came. The chief said, look, I would ensure that those who were there identify the young man who manhandled the police, so that I would ensure that he's handed over to you. This was an incident that happened. Just that night, around 2 a.m., the police went into the entire area, went into people's bedrooms. People were beaten, and in fact vandalized vehicles that were parked. Police officers. That was just before the 2020 elections. I think it was somewhere October or September, October. That was the time. They vandalized vehicles, beat people. As I talk to you, a gentleman is paralyzed. And the only crime of that gentleman, that he had the misfortune of living in that area at the time the police went there to engage in the things they engage in. They went into people's bedroom. I mean, intelligence gathering for me is very important. And it is even so disrespectful when the chief himself said, look, we would ensure who did that, because the alleged, manhandling of the police officer didn't happen in the security. It happened at a particular place. So even the assembly member who was there, the assembly man in that area, who was there, went to the chief, went to the police and said, we are looking forward to identifying the person who did that. Because the only person who could account what actually happened was the police officer who claimed that she was manhandled. So the only thing was to identify that person. Just in the midst of this, they went and did what they did. When we demanded justice be done, we were assured that, they had commenced investigation into the matter. Nothing happens. Another incident which indeed was publicized nationally, I think on social media. Someone connected illegally to the VRE, or VRE, in the north, we still use VRE. They went there to disconnect the illegal connection, and that they manhandled the VRE officers. They took police officers there. They went there. They were beating anybody they saw. Once again, the police assured us that they were going to investigate the matter and bring to book those police officers who engaged in that. Nothing happened. Another place in Kakpaayele, they went and did same. But you see, KOD, my anger also has to do with what happened in the Yannas Palace. In Yendi, they pursued a motor rider who ran to the Yannas Palace. They went inside there with guns and arrested this guy and manhandled him at the palace. It had to take a high command of the Ghana police to go to Yendi to apologize to the Yanna. Apologizing to the Yanna, we expected action to be taken against those police officers who engage in some of these things. Completely unacceptable. Now, these things are just far too many. One, the traditional authorities have a significant role to play in terms of our governance structure. The Constitution recognizes the role they play. They play a complementary role with the political leadership in terms of administering the state. So when you do this, you are disrespecting the traditional authorities. You are undermining even the rules and regulations governing the conduct of even the police force. And I think that it is just completely unacceptable. KOD, I am going to file an urgent question demanding from the Minister for Interior to tell us the outcome of the investigation in those previous barbarous acts committed by the police in the Tamale Metropolitan Assembly. Because once again, in as much as we may commend the police for issuing this statement, on condition that that statement is authentic and interdicting these individuals, we would demand to know what has happened in the previous, incidences, where we were assured, just like this one, that the police were going to take, action to ensure that those police officers who engage in such acts were brought to book. Because it could be one of such stories. When the Changle incident happened, that was the assurance we got. Nothing happened. When the Yendi incident happened, they went and apologized to the Yana, but that is not the apology we're looking for. We are looking for justice to be done. We are looking for apprehending those police officers to deal with them. When the incident over the illegal connection happened, who were captured on video, manhandling and beating people, when that incident happened, the assurances we got from the police was that they had commenced investigation and that they were going to deal with them. Another incident that happened in Kakpa, the same thing. In fact, just recently, the one before this, in Tamale Central again, around Salamba, that a gentleman had a problem with a police officer. That gentleman had a problem with a police officer. The police officer was a mufti. Anyway, he was not even in uniform. The police went to that area, vandalized properties. In fact, they went to one house. When they went there, the main door of the house was locked. They broke a wall. They broke a wall and got into that house. And the local TV stations went and covered this story. Broke a wall. They went to another house. Their main door was closed. They have the penchant of doing this when people are sleeping, traumatizing children who live in those homes. And I'm saying that anytime such things happen, you find the police quickly trying to defend. We have very decent-minded, professional police officers within the police force. Let them be informed that those miscreants among them are denigrating the profession which they jealously indeed are serving. You take an oath of office to defend property and lives. Unfortunately, they lead the wagon of destroying these properties and lives. By security, to conclude, the real story behind these deaths, the real stories behind this maiming, is not just the number of people who have lost their lives. It is that when those lives are lost, women become widows, children become orphans, the livelihood of families are truncated, the education of kids are truncated. As a matter of fact, there are old men and old women whose children go on their normal legitimate businesses just to put food on the table for their aged grandparents and parents to survive. When you truncate the life of such a person, you put these people in a danger that can never be measured. This is the real story behind these actions committed by these police officers. And I think that we have had enough in Tamale, and we will ensure that justice is done to the people of Tamale. And once again, but for the intervention of the Lamanshana, we would have had a number of people losing their lives because the anger of the people were at brim. Yesterday when the thing happened, Immediately I got the information after 3, it was around 3 to 4 o'clock. I called the Minister for Interior and I called him about 6 times. He never picked. I sent him a text message indicating that it was me. As I sit today, he has not responded to my text message. I don't want to blame him. Perhaps he didn't see it. Perhaps he was engaged in something. And the reason why I sent the text message, so that he would know that I actually called. I put a call to Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who happened to be the minority leader and also virtually the leader of all of us in Parliament. He is the senior most among us. He is also a minority leader. He has been in Parliament long before us. And issues like this, I do not want to politicize it. Because it is not just about NDC, MPP. It is about right and wrong. When I spoke with him, I tried calling the deputy the deputy chief whip, the MP for Tualang, who happened to be my kid brother, Honorable Habib. He couldn't pick. I got in touch with Honorable Adam Mohammed Amin Anta, who is also an MP from Karga. He was also particularly angry about that incident. So I just want people to know that it is not just about NDC, MPP. It is protecting and defending our dignity as people of Northern Region and people of Dagbang. It is completely unacceptable. They will not do this any part of this country. In Accra, don't we have people being pursued over driving DV numbers? And who has given the police the right to shoot and kill people who are engaged in SAT? The only body and the only institution with that authority is the police. And permit me also, so I'm saying that is the courts. Yeah. And permit me also to sincerely appeal to the people that the patience, the restraint they exercised yesterday, I urge them to continuously exercising that restraint. And I can assure them, we will not rest until justice is done to that young man called Abdul Hakim. There's a young man whose photo someone pasted, his teacher, in fact, his former teacher, posted on social media and said, this was my former student. This young man is an intelligent young man who had just written the BEC, waiting for his results. That young man has been sent to his early grave by the recalcitrant police officers who think that they have the laws and they can do anything. That young man could be the son of any of you, these recalcitrant police officers. You truncated the life of this young man. If someone does that to your child, how are you going to take it? It is the responsibility of the Ghana Police, the Minister for Interior, and the President of the Republic of Ghana to ensure that justice is done to Abdul Hakim and many other young people who are struggling to survive at the Tamale Teaching Hospital.
Well, Ms. Eneko, I think I should bring you at this point, and then I'll bring this one as well before we move to discuss the other issues. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning to honorable comrades.
See you, good morning.
Townsman from the mountains. My greetings to the good people of our country and the viewers of Pan-Africa. And on this auspicious day, my greetings to my wife, Abigail. And although I don't celebrate Valentine's, they are enamored with Valentine's Day and love. And it shouldn't only be chocolate, it should be cocoa drink, I suppose. So my greetings to her too. Indeed, my commiserations with all the victims of what happened in Tamale. Yeah, people can do wrong, but I think the police has a service code about how to go about righting that wrong, about arresting them, etc. I mean, we need not be trigger happy. And what I would like to say is that it's unfortunate, but increasingly the police are becoming trigger happy. Whether it was during the election time when 8 people were killed, whether it was from, is it Ayawaso, West Wagon, whether it was the journalist who was beaten in the national security, there's a certain level of impunity by the coercive agents of state, that's the police and the other security agencies. And that is not right as far as a constitutional dispensation is concerned. What we must bear in mind is that the security situation in West Africa is in dire straits. I mean, it's not the best. So you don't go about antagonizing the civil population in an otherwise peaceful country. You must police When you say you must police, it doesn't mean you take military action or force action. It is no more even called the police force. During the colonial times, it was the police force. Now it's the police service. And so this wanton shooting, you know, of people, etc. Because when the chap entered the chief's palace or whatever residence, he could have entered, the police could have entered that residence until they come under attack, armed attack. They have no right to be shooting left, right, and center. And then we also have an unending investigations anytime such things happen. I mean, we are investigating. The investigations go on forever. That does not satisfy us. Yes, I know people have been arrested, but I want to say that if this constitutional dispensation, this democracy does not serve the people of this country, then it is in danger. Because nobody will get up and defend that which does not serve his interests. Once again, my commiserations to the victims, and we have to be careful. I think the other time I was here, one of the panelists was saying that we should be congratulating the IGP and promoting some policemen and those kind of things. There's a pattern of impunity. How can we congratulate the IGP for this? Who says that he does not bear responsibility for what his men do, and that we don't have the right to call up on him about it as citizens and as taxpayers who have given him a job and pay him? We do have. And so I don't know, I think he should be up and doing.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Unethical. Let me come to you, Nanaito.
Thank you, Bra Kwame, and a very good morning to you.
A very good morning.
Good morning, senior comrade and my Ofie senior man. And good morning, Honorable Comrade Mutala. And a very good morning to Bernard Mona. A very good morning to Bernard Mona, my former chairman. Former chairman of PNC. And your
best friend.
A colleague in Justice for Ghana.
Absolutely.
Yes, and your best friend. And then Kopstongu, okay, of Central Region.
Okay.
Kwame, in fact, my senior comrades has said all. We need to condemn what happened yesterday in Tamale. In fact, when I saw the pictures on social media, I was like, what kind of training did these policemen went through? Because if indeed they went through the normal 6 months training, and of course, if they went through how to be able to shoot, I mean target and shoot, I don't think what they did, they would have done that. Because why would you just shoot anyhow to an extent that you aim at a target as if you are going for hunting? I was surprised. Meanwhile, you are in the middle of the city. And so for them, I sometimes wonder the kind of training they go through, and when they pass out, I don't know what is in that DV normal plate. In fact, last night, just as I was going to my house, just at the junction, I saw a police car parked, and he has stopped another vehicle with a DV number plate parked right in the junction. So just imagine if it was to be a big car branching, it could have caused an accident.
Yep.
And most of these accidents are being caused by these police people because they stop these cars anyhow. Sometimes they stop the car if the drivers don't want to stop. They will just chance on the bonnet. We've been seeing it. And this practice ought to stop. What at all is in DV that they always want to arrest those vehicles anytime they see? Sometimes you'll be driving. The moment you see a DV car, the next police person will just bypass you, cross that car, stop it. I mean, what is this? IGP should take note. And this morning I saw that they have come out with some statements trying to interdict those policemen. We've been hearing this. We've been hearing this. This time around, we want to get to the bottom of it. Just like Honorable Comrade said, I think it is about time we look at the way we train our security agencies, not even arresting of vehicles alone, arresting of human beings. Look at the strategy they use in arresting people these days, as if we are doing Rambo films. Sometimes I ask, you don't even arrest a hardened criminal the way you arrest a journalist. No, it is bad. And so we need to look into the way our police system and our security agencies, the way they act towards the ordinary citizens. It's becoming unbecoming. And if care is not taken, a time will come when they speak, we are not going to listen to them. And if that happens, we become a banana republic. Right. We don't want to become a banana republic as well. Right. So for Kwame, that's all I can say.
Well, yes.
There's one thing I've observed. To be very honest, and let me reiterate. There are some police officers who are very, very professional. And I have said this on this program countless times, that there is a particular police officer at the under tunnel. I don't know his name. Yes, some dark, I don't know his name. Yeah. Yes, I don't know his name. Very, very professional. Yeah. One thing I have observed, you drive your car in the night, police officers stop you, and even the vehicles before you, the first thing they salute. Who is in that car, they don't care, and tell you that your boys are here. The purpose for such roadblocks are to randomly search vehicles at that time of the night, randomly. Now they stop you, they can stop vehicles, and then they see DV, they will leave you. You can go once the DV is there. I have seen that. That they stop a DV, and all the two police officers, usually you can have about two police officers. One is standing here, one is standing at the other side. Those coming and those. Once they get a DV, they don't care about the rest. Oh no, I'm serious. And I'm not creating this story. They go to the DV. Anybody can pass. So you can have arms or whatever in your car pass as long as the DV. And the only reason why they give so much attention to the DV is that they get money. That is the only reason. To be very honest, and they belittle themselves so much. I'm being honest with you. Look, I have a friend who told me, he said, Honorable, if I want to become an armed robber, the first thing I'll buy is that I'll buy a Land Cruiser. That the first thing I'll buy is that I'll buy a V8. You drive, usually I don't use my V8 often. You drive V8, you get there, they don't even search. Once you get there, they open.
It's true. So
whatever you are carrying, you can do that. So usually, when I drive my V8 and I get there, before I get there on my lights, and I roll down my,
I do that too.
my glasses. But they will just come, they salute. They don't know who that person is. I'll tell you an incident that happened when we were in office in 2016. A gentleman went to the party of passport office for a passport. He went there and used my name.
Can you imagine?
So when he used my name, the police officer said he won't allow him to go in. So he called me. So the moment I picked the call, he gave the phone to the police officer. The police officer collected the phone and threw it into a dustbin. So I wasn't hearing anything. So I could hear a
scuffle.
Exactly. So finally when he picked the call, and I went off. Then later he called me and said he went there. When he called me, he wanted me to talk to a police officer. And that the police officer collected the phone and threw it into a dustbin. I said, that's wonderful. Honestly. I said, I told him, what the police officer has done is the best. People do that. Someone commits a traffic offense, call the person, and the person say honorable. Oh, I'm being honest with you. Say honorable. So once the person says honorable, the police officer, an unintelligent, unprofessional police officer, whether you are even going to give reference to the honorable, who is that honorable, you do not know. At the other side of the phone, then you allow the person to go on. Yet, you engage in such killings. It has to do with the way we recruit police officers. Honestly, we recruit police officers who they are not even prepared to be police officers. There are some who join the security services because they don't have jobs. Look, I have had people who applied for prisons, fire service, and this immigration. At least 2 people told me, say, Honorable, to be very honest, this is a job I never wanted to do. But I am applying because there is nothing I can do. And for me, that is where the real danger lies. When people are desperately engaging in professions that they sincerely do not want. These are some of them. So he's already angry. He doesn't even want it. He's angry.
Yeah.
So the slightest provocation.
Yeah.
What kind of psychological thing that goes in there? We had Dr. Afrifa at the psychology department, who had the privileged opportunity to be taught 4 years by Dr. Afrifa. Dr. Afrifa used to be part of those who were engaged in recruiting, police officers and military and men in the security, because he is a behavioral psychologist. So he could tell, based on the interview you go through. These days, it's protocol. They don't have interviews.
Yeah.
They have protocol list. They send the protocol list, and those people are recruited. They don't care whether they have criminal records or background. They do not care. We had, what's the name? The gentleman who said he was selling phones at Circle. Double. Such a person recruited. Look at what they did at Ayawasu. So we need to look at the entire structure of the police force and how men and women are engaged into this profession.
I mean, perhaps the only way we can actually do that is when we take it out of the hands of the executive. Because if you have the top man appointed by the executive of the president, then clearly it trickles down to the last man.
But the truth of the matter is that institutions of state are not a personal
properties.
entity.
That's the ideal situation.
I'm coming down anywhere. It's not a person. Even under a dictatorship, they are not a personal entity. They have a service code. They have rules of engagement and everything. You understand? So even if party boys are going to be recruited into the police service, they must meet a certain criteria.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, clearly.
Because they must perform within a certain, environment. You understand? They must perform in a certain way. They are expected to. And this is related to the building of the institutional infrastructure of the state. You see, anytime we talk of infrastructure, we only think of brick and mortar. But there are institutions of state which must behave in a certain way. And we are in a civil society. We are not like the Nazis. Even the Nazis, they had a civil society. They had the Gestapo who did extra legal things. You understand?
Right.
And we have been building this country since 1957. And so we expect our institutions of state. It is not only the police where this indiscipline is found. Everywhere. In the public service, in the civil service, in the government machinery, everywhere. It is there. And it's been accepted. You just go and get a permit. You are going to pay the government for that permit. And the person who is paid is also expecting you to give him an extra payment for the work he's supposed to do. And I'm always told, as for you there, you are something. That is how it is. You can't do anything about it. And everybody seems to have accepted it. So the country is just sinking. We accept wrong. We have no sense of morality. We have no sense of how the law should work, how the state should function, how relationships should go on. And that is the beginning of the failure of the state. That is what happened gradually in Somalia. That's what is gradually happening in Burkina, Sudan, and elsewhere. And we have to be careful.
Right. Well, thank you. I think that what we are going to discuss next will find expression in all the things that we've spoken about.
One of the reasons why, and I'm saying this because of the issue you raised, that if we depoliticize our police force or our security agencies, you go to the RECSEC, the Regional Security Committee, and then the DISEC. The head of the security within the district or the region is the political appointee.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons of this decentralization, fully experiencing it, and even if you read the Constitutional Review Commission's work in the matter of having the MMDCs elected, one of the challenges that have always been raised has to do with the fact that if you have MMDC who is elected and he is the head of the security within the district or region, whose responsibility is to supervise the arrangement of security in the event of a president visiting that if you have a person who belongs to a different political party rather than the party in government, that you have a challenge doing so. The view is simple. Why must it be the political appointee who is the head of the district, committee or the regional security committee? It must be this, and it has to do, or it has its antecedents from the colonial, rulership that we have had.
The DC.
The police were actually used to dehumanize and subdue people. Unfortunately, when we had independence, the measures that Nkrumah put in place, if they hadn't been truncated, at least we would have had a body that is very professional. Unfortunately, the same police, they masterminded the overthrow of Nkrumah and strengthened the grip of the police in perpetrating these crimes the more. And unfortunately, we've had successive coups, given so much power to the security forces, whose responsibility is it only to protect and ensure our safety and protect the territorial integrity of this country. So you trace it that. But as we have democratized, at least this Fourth Republic, we have experienced it for over 2 decades, getting to 3 decades, if not more. At least we should have been moving away from some of these things. But it's like we, the politicians, we still want to have control. I think that we should move away from that. Right. Let's properly decentralize and let's insulate security matters from political appointees.
It boils down to our constitution. We need to do something about our constitution because if you look at the composition of the police council itself, the vice president is the chairman.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the top hierarchy, the IGP himself is the 4th person.
Terrible.
So how can he take decisions on his own? And so if we are able to make some changes in our constitution and say, look, these institutions need to be independent, I think that we can get to a level that we want to go.
If you live in a country where partisanship replaces patriotism, that's what happens.
It's true.
Anyway, let me go for this quick commercial break. On our return, we're going to be touching on very serious topics which you do not want to miss. Mahama Blaster Kufuor accuses him of criminalizing free speech and journalism. And this matter, it appears, is flowing off the back of the arrest of Mensa Thompson, my very, very good friend, Mensa Thompson, of ASEPA, as well as the Fix the Country leader, who has also been arrested for allegedly making some cool comments. And also Bobie, who was arrested. We will be back shortly after this commercial break to delve deeper and deeper into these matters. Also, over 5 million Ghana cedis going into Akufo-Addo's 10-day trip abroad. 10-day trip abroad. Ask yourself that if this had happened under Mahama, what would have been the situation? Imminent collapse of poultry industry, farmers cry out. Now, what is also worrying is a story that I just found on the front page of Supreme newspaper, which says Ghana imports. Listen. Ghana imports $2 million worth of fish annually. Quick commercial break.
Trassaco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trassaco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trassaco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Back from that quick breather, my name is Kwame Usuda, so you're still watching the news private segment here on Pan-African Television. 2022, no jokes at all. We are going to make sure that we give government a little fire because it appears that government has decided to take the people for granted. We're going to make sure that we put their feet to the fire of accountability and responsibility. Now, Nanato, let me come to you. Mahama Blaster Kufuor accuses him of criminalizing free speech and journalism. Do you agree with Mahama? And do you think he has the locus? Because it appears that would be the question that people are like, does he even have the locus to say this?
Well, Kwame, thank you. First of all, Mahama is a citizen of Ghana, right? And he has every reason, every right to either write to the president or come out with what is inside him. If I say inside him, what he feels about the way things are going on in the country. But you see, I was like, when I saw Mahama writing, I asked myself, you, when I say you the journalist yourselves, what have you done when you realize that your own are being misused, your own are being molested, and the rest? What have you, as Journalist Association, GJA, what Media Foundation for West Africa, what have you also done? Which statement have you been able to come out with?
But you know, credibility has departed the journalism industry. That's a fact. I mean,
because we have been in this country over the years, and over the years we have seen what some journalists are capable of doing when it comes to certain people who are in governance. And we have realized that as we speak now, it looks like everybody is quiet. Why? Simply because when you open your mouth, either they will come for you or the next day you will no more be on air. I have typical example of somebody who were having an interview on air. The next minute, a call came and that program has to be stopped. Now, the gentleman is no more working with that media house.
Atinka.
It's not Atinka. Light TV.
Okay. I don't know about that station.
Yes. But I was surprised that, look, people are speaking the truth. People are telling Ghanaians what is really on the grounds. And instead of government to listen to us, what he does is that he rather pays people to attack the people who are speaking the truth. And so, what then do we do as a country? I was on air. The co-panelists just received a message that how can we dig into this guy? Meaning, how can they dig into me to find out what I really do so that they can use it against me? Then I'll keep quiet. But I told them, look, for me, I'll always speak my mind.
You should come to your farm and dig there. That will help with the irrigational issues that you have.
You understand? Corey, this is serious. You see, we need not to wait for former president to even come out.
Now, that's a very good point. I'm still staying with you. Perhaps you must also look at the people who own media houses now in this country. You know, before now, it used to be independent-minded people who were very concerned about the development of Ghana, who would come together, build, you know, some media house, and then propagate the message. Now, let's look at the people who own these media houses, even the popular ones. You know, perhaps
you see,
that is the reason why we're here.
See, I don't know the criteria in which the frequency board or whoever grants the frequency board, whoever the criteria they use in granting them permission. But left to me alone, if you are a politician, they need not to give you any permit to be able to operate a radio or TV station.
Not just a politician, businessmen who
but you see,
are aligned to
businessmen normally don't, you know, come on their own, you know, station to propagate issues. But when it comes to politicians, they can go sit on their various TV station, radio station. They don't care whatever the airtime they will spend, lambast whoever is trying to attack them. And we have seen it over the years, that people use their own radio stations to attack people, incite people, and they just go scot-free without being arrested. But you see, that is where our issue of our security agencies comes in. Because you see, in as much as somebody is on air saying something and you realize that what the person is saying on air is not suitable for public consumption, what you need to do is not arrest the person in a Rambo style. You need to think that, look, this person that we are going after, he has followers. He has people watching him. So the moment you arrest him, people will either take it in a different perspective than the purpose of the arrest. Because, look, there are some statements on air, I have to be frank with you, we need to condemn it. But in as much as we are condemning it, let us find a way to invite the people, advise them, talk to them. Look, if we hear you say A, B, C, D on air again, we will arrest you. But you don't wait, the person is on air, and then you just send people to be on standby. Immediately after the person's program, you arrest the person. And when you even arrest the person is entitled to his or her lawyer. But what do we see? We will realize the person has been sent to Odododio police station. The next minute, he's at Ashaman. And then people will just be, chasing these people here and there, creating tension. So then my question now is, if somebody says, I'm a security, what do you call it?
Person.
No, it's not security. They have a term, national security. I work for the national security. What is the criteria in selecting somebody who works with the national security? Is it because he's a party foot soldier? Or is it because he follows an MP and they realize that he has some muscle, so we should just put him there? No. You have to be professional. Do you think that any professional, well-trained police person will just go after a media person the way they have been going these days? Look at the way they arrest Bobby. Look at the way they arrested Captain Smart.
Yeah.
It's not the best. Okay. They were entitled to lawyers. But in the long run, you realize that the news was coming. Oh, we can't find these people. We don't even know where they've taken them to. It doesn't speak well. You are rather downgrading the security agencies. You are allowing Ghanaians to know that you have been influenced by somebody up there. And that is not proper.
Let's look at the flip side. I mean, this is just perhaps the on the face value. Let's look at the flip side. First of all, question is who can be criticized and who cannot be criticized in this country. Secondly, it appears that a number of you have now averted your minds to the MPP strategy about governance.
Okay. We have.
Okay? I don't know whether you have.
I have seen it.
From the very onset, when they took over power, if you recall very, very closely, there was a deliberate attempt to cower people to submission. So first of all, they started with the closure of opposing media houses.
That's right.
Going after some journalists who were very vocal. And then after they did that, everybody just went silent. So that they could have their way.
That's it.
I don't know whether it is an attempt to bring that back, particularly when they know that now the odds are clearly against them. Because if you speak about the First Lady is a citizen of the Republic of Ghana. If there's an allegation leveled against the First Lady, I don't think that, if you have, it's a civil matter.
That is it.
If it is wrong, you take the person to court. So why do you now invite the national security, or the police, or any state agency to go and effect an arrest on a person who is only making an allegation against you for acquiring some lands, for instance?
So that's what you have said it all. You see, they are hiding behind our so-called, security agencies and doing something else. Because like you said, if someone has made a statement against the First Lady, the First Lady has every right to sue that person in court. And you don't need to use the security agencies to go after the person and say, we'll show you where power lies. It doesn't, to me, some of these things doesn't make sense. And this boils down to who are their advisors. Because see, if you have proper advisors, they will advise you that, look, what you are about to embark on will not help you as a normal human being. Rather, it will spoil your image. So you need not to do that. But in the long run, they just misuse, because that's abuse of power. Let me just put it that way. Because they think, in quote, they are in power. But see, I always say this. Power doesn't last forever. Power, it doesn't last forever. Whether you can never be a stone. Even a stone, at a point, someone will just crack and it will just turn to pieces. So don't think that you are in power, you are going to remain in power forever. Look at what is happening. And our security agencies too, you have been trained, you are professionals. What is going to be the image outside? What are our rankings going to be in terms of security, intelligence security? what is going to happen?
Right.
Because you are being used by the politicians of the day. And you see, some people make statements and they get away with it.
Yes.
So you ask yourself, why? Do we have different class of people who can make a statement and another class of people who don't have to even talk at all? Now look at what happened. Immediately they took over, you said they closed down some radio stations. Now, not the radio stations that they just closed down, but they appointed media practitioners who we claim have some voices. And they gave them juicy appointment. If you look at the media landscape, most of the media personnel have been given appointment. And
how can you criticize your appointor?
Yes, you can go to extent of you using about 112,000 Ghanas to buy artificial, what do you call it, a Christmas tree, and nobody is talking about it, and you are there, and then somebody just tried to do his work, he has been sacked. Now, you are there. President comes to your studio. People want you to ask the president very important questions. And when the president was criticizing your own countryman chief, you were there laughing. The next day, you've been given an appointment. Now you don't even talk. So what do you expect Ghanaians to say? You have been bought. Right. Look at these Christian councils. Look at them. Formally, you hear them coming out to talk. Clergy. You see, and Kwame, this issue of culture of silence, it looks like it casts across everywhere. Headmasters don't talk. Now the only people who are talking is UTAG. They are the only people talking. You don't even see, nurses and those people who were agitating. We are suffering. Everybody is quiet because their top people have been given juicy appointments. And if we live in a country where somebody will come and hide behind democracy and do something else, as if on paper we are having a democratic country, but reality is more than something else.
Thank you.
And that is bad.
Mr. Unethical, clearly he set the tone for this conversation, looking at different elements, to what we are currently experiencing.
Yeah, thank you.
Point is, how did we get to this point? And I do know that some of these things, we experienced them during the military regimes and things like that. But we are saying that we are experimenting our democratic laurels, if you will. Okay, but it appears that I don't know whether there's something called autocratic democracy. I don't know whether we have something like, because clearly, I mean, some of these things are unpardonable.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, but you realize that when you go a bit into history, those who are ruling us now have imbibed the DNA of intolerance, although they have a posture of being democratic. Yes, of course. I mean, they were part of the first military junta in our country. There's the 1966 coup, which anniversary is coming on soon. They were not only a part of it, they were the main drivers of the second constitution of the Republic in 1969. And when you go into that constitution, you realize that in Article 71, a whole huge number of people were disenfranchised for about 10, 15 years. They couldn't vote, they couldn't hold public office or anything. I mean, the food, the ability to work to put food into their mouth was taken away from them. And it stretched into the civilian regime of Dr. Buzia.
Right.
They even went to the extent of banning the Trade Union Congress. That's the level of intolerance that the forebears of the New Patriotic Party had. Even if you go further, their intolerance was to have used violence because they didn't agree that we should have independence or that a party could win through the popular vote in the 50s. And so you realize that when they came, due to the, the outcry from the public, the criminal libel law was repealed because the criminal libel law was used as a campaign tool against Jerry Rawlings and his party. So they had no option but to repeal it. But you realize that they've used other means to try to silence everybody and for their propaganda to thrive. And when now their propaganda is falling flat because it's no more in tune with the reality
yeah.
and with what they have promised and what they claim they can do and what they claim they are doing and everything, now they have to resort to using thuggery and intimidatory tactics.
Yeah.
I mean, is it Gold FM?
Yeah. Radio
During our friend Kufuor's time, there was an attempt to gag it. They wanted to send troops there till it was blown up on the radio and many people went there. That's civil society. But like Mr. Nto said, civil society, the so-called moral society, the GBA, Ghana Bar Association, the industrialists, all those people who were making a whole lot of noise during Mohammed's time about alleged infractions on civil liberties. Where are they? Nyansafo no wahe. Where is he? Where are the priest? The
Professor Martin.
Where are they? Why is it that almost everybody is quiet in the polity? Those people who claim to be the conscience of the society, why are they suddenly gone quiet? And if they've suddenly gone quiet, doesn't it mean that the culture of silence has come? Doesn't it mean that they don't want to offend anybody? I mean, when I heard the reasons why Thompson and Vomawo and others have been arrested, I was wondering whether I'll be next, because I've been very outspoken on this platform. Which means what? Which means that probably I'll be advised when you go tone down. And you'll be advised by your own people because they're afraid for your safety. Which means what? Which means that the truth which must be spoken to power, now we are going to tone down. That is what is culture of silence. Culture of silence doesn't mean that they'll come and put a barrel of the gun and zip your mouth with the barrel of the gun. It is through intimidation. And this goes in parallel with the trigger happiness of the security forces. They catch the City FM guy at National Security and beat him up into pulp. They go to Techiman during elections and kill people. They go to Ablekuma, whatever, Central or whatever, they killed a young lady. You understand? All this come together to try to intimidate people, because after it has been done, nothing happens.
Absolutely.
Which means that the so-called rule of law, and I was just reading in the graphic that the IGP met the media and told them that nobody was about the law. It is true. I agree with him. But he is also not about the law.
Absolutely.
Neither is the president about the law. Neither is the political class in our country about the law. We are all equal citizens. That's why we have a republic. We don't have a monarchy. That's why we have a republic. The equality of all citizens. That's what a republic really means. And so, therefore, it is very, very important that we all stand up and be counted. That free speech cannot be policed by the security services. If one is offended because one has been personally accused of something which is not true, there's the loss of a libel. You go for it. Others have resorted to it. I think Ibrahim Mahama, wasn't he? The former president's brother.
Yeah.
He resorted to it against some chap who accused him of certain things. Yes. Although we have our suspicions about the court. And what is even more interesting is about that guy who was jailed for 14 days for contempt of court.
Yes.
And prosecuted by the Attorney General. Does the Attorney General prosecute contempt? You're a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I've done a fair amount of law, but does the Attorney General prosecute contempt, or contempt is in the bottom of the court?
It is in the bottom of the court.
And so it's the court which is able to detect that you have, been breach of contempt or whatever, and so must try you.
Contempt, yeah.
So the laws are changed. The laws are changed by the Electoral Commission, so the people of South wouldn't vote. You see, apart from lawlessness, there's also what we call administrative lawlessness, where administratively the bureaucracy which is supposed to work has been regime captured and is being manipulated to do the wrong things in the attempt to do the bidding of the section of the political class who are in power. And it is not good. We didn't treat the first topic, but the security situation has now reached Benin.
Yeah.
When they were writing it, they were talking about Burkina Faso. But later on, they had to admit that it was in northern Benin as well. And the French went there to wantonly kill people. Why? Because a Frenchman had been killed. If it had been some Beninois or something, they wouldn't have cared. So they had to use their force to be blasting everything in their way. For 20 years, they blasted the Taliban in Afghanistan. But later on, they had to run away from the Taliban. Yeah. So they will not succeed. And anybody who behaves in that way, that might is power, that, they can do anything that they want. What we call the arrogance of power, abuse of power, which is corruption. Now we think that corruption is only going to steal. No, corruption is abuse of power in its true sense. It won't last. And if you don't take time, it will be revisited on you. I think Atamils tried to break that jinx, but he was derisively called all sorts of names. So do you think if another group who have suffered, under this, like this, it's people being arrested, intimidated and everything, when they can, they will look on?
No, they won't. Well, that's a challenge, really. And thank you very much, Mr. Unethical. Let me remind viewers that you can join the conversation via Facebook page, which is Pan African Television. Make sure that you share the feed so others can get the opportunity to watch. Now, it has become instructive for us to do this because, Honorable, it appears that, in all of this, and I know you're going to start your conversation, but in all of this, can the Ghanaian people, citizenry, also be blamed for all that is happening? Particularly when we make it look like, well, once it's happening to somebody who is aligned to the NDC, it is not us, so we don't really care, about this. But Mr. Unethical ends on a very thought-provoking, point where he makes the point that, it's the MPP that is in power, which is why they have the muscle to do what they are doing. But if they exit, a similar thing could happen to them as well. So, clearly, looking at all of these things, please tell us what your thoughts are.
Kyo, the one thing that is not permanent in politics is being in power. Political power is like a bird of passage. The bird flies, hops on a tree, and then flies again. There is a proverb in the Gbani that if a donkey is going to land, you don't see the ears. You only notice that it has ears after you have been landed on the ground. No political party or politician has ever been prepared to lose power. Even when the odds are against you, you still have at least a glimmer of hope that you can win the elections that you are getting into. We have decided as a people to charter the path of democracy. We've decided that our democratic processes have been truncated 3 times. In fact, 4 times, if you like, and that never again should we have that process truncated again. And for which reason, 1992, we came out with a document called Constitution. Now, if we have agreed collectively to charter the path of democracy, then we must be more than willing to adhere to the tenets of those democratic processes. Unfortunately, we seemed to be drifting back. It's like you move one step forward and 2 steps backward. I made a contribution on the floor. It was something on just our democracy. And our friends from the MPP didn't take kindly to that. And I remember the MP for Subin protested why the speaker allowed me to make that statement. And my point was that I was contributing to a statement made by a colleague. And I said whether we could imagine if the criminal and illegal overthrow of Nkrumah in the 1966 never happened, what would have been the state of our democracy?
Yep.
And I also quickly said that as an NDC, a proud NDC member, I have never participated in anything 31st. Never. And I have never participated in anything 31st because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I can't be condemning the 66 coup and I'll be glorifying another coup on 31st. It simply doesn't make sense. I either condemn the 1966 and I do not participate in the 31st. And I remember when I made that statement, a very known colleague of mine in Parliament was not happy. He was saying that I shouldn't say that. And he was angry. Then after I made my point in my statement, I told him, are we not being hypocrites if we rise to condemn the 66 coup, yet we'll be seen defending the 31st? And the reason why you can't condemn one and defend one is that they all truncated democratic processes.
Yeah.
Now, one very important institution that plays a critical role in this whole process of democracy is the media. Because, like I said this on this, and I'll reiterate same. You can have a government without parliament, but you cannot have democracy without parliament. Because in a government, the executive can function, the judiciary can function, but parliament may not be there, but you still have a government that is being run. But when you talk of a democracy, you must have parliament function, and that is why anytime there is overthrow of a democratically elected government, the first institution, the military junta attack is what? The dissolution of parliament. Now this parliament certainly could not have exercised that responsibility without the support of the media. 275 members represent 275 constituencies in the parliament. In other form of government, they would have gathered everybody to communicate with you. And that is why it is expected as a member of parliament, visit your constituency. Any major decision you want to take, it must be a decision that is reflective of the feelings of the people you represent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who would ensure that my people understand what I actually say on the floor? It is the media. Whatever debate that goes on there is the media that sends it to our constituents. This brutalization of people in Tamale Central, but for the media, but for the proliferation of the media, we would have been hearing stories. But with the media, we've seen footages, we've seen videos, what actually happened. So the media sometimes underestimate the significant role they play. So in as much as we cannot have a democracy without parliament, I believe that you can't even have a democracy without the media. Unfortunately, to buttress the points Ina made, what we experience in this country can be situated to what this man once said, Machiavelli, that human beings are greedy of wants and needy of gains.
Yes, yeah.
As long as you shower your blessings upon them, they are all yours. The media in this country have been bought. Of course, not all media houses.
I have not been bought.
I'm saying, of course, not all media houses.
I have not been bought.
We live in a country where you have a journalist hosting just 1 hour program or 2 hours program. And he's one of the richest people. They are very rich. They drive the most luxurious vehicles without any known business. They live in the most experienced areas in Accra. And they live in the most expensive homes. Nobody questions. Look, don't get me wrong. Some politicians are fantastically corrupt. If I drive a Lamborghini to this place, and the next day I drive a Range Rover, I can bet my last penny. When I leave here, your journalist will gather and ask, where did he get the money? And the only conclusion they will give is that perhaps he is taking bribes, or perhaps if I'm a government appointee, he's robbing the state. They may not be wrong, far from what? From the truth. But journalists can drive any car. They can live in any area. They can live any expensive life. They go holidays with their families abroad, Bahamas. Nobody says anything about it. And they have no known business. Any other politician may have other businesses they do. But the conclusion is that, okay, it is the taxpayers' money. Now, when you have a journalist who is also being fed fat by the politician using the very taxpayers' money, that journalist is more a criminal than the politician who is feeding him fat. Because you have a moral duty and a responsibility to question the source of that income. So that you serve as a check on the conduct of what? The politician. Look, we are talking about separation of powers and the three arms, playing the role of checking each other. But who checks or who watches the conduct of the three arms collectively? It's the people. And the people will do that through what? The media. The people will do that through the media because the media have the power to reflect to the society what the people do. Well, now when you have this same media being compromised, look, in this country, to be very honest with you, I don't have any problem with any journalist who thinks that he is aligned to a political party A or B. KOD, when I was a student leader, and asked any student leader, within the student leadership, we knew this person is aligned to the left, this person is aligned to the right, this person is an NDC person, this person. But when it came to issues confronting students, we disregarded our political positions. And I'll give you a classical example. Honorable Haruna Idrisu is the minority leader today, who staged more demonstrations against the NDC than him. Who staged more demonstrations against the NDC than him? And I can give you litany, Setofori, Elvis Afri Ankara, when he was the SRC president in Legon. They staged several demonstrations against the NDC. But students at that time knew that they were aligned to the NDC as a political party. That is what we expect journalists to be doing. You may be aligned to a political party one way or the other. But when it comes to the issues of your profession, your journalism, you need to be at least fairly independent. The least said about journalists in this country, the better. You have the clergy. Some of them. We had a known pastor in this country who was preaching, telling people to invest in a particular bank, when he knew that the bank was collapsing. In fact, the bank had collapsed. And he preached, everybody listened. The media echoed his preaching. They played his audios 12 o'clock on a particular media house every day. And he was saying that if you want to be rich, invest in this. When that bank collapsed, and then the information was available to people, at the time he was encouraging people to invest in that, but that bank had collapsed. Yet nobody sees anything wrong with that. So I'm saying that the media is their own enemy. You have journalists in this country, or media men, whose papers nobody buys, even those papers. And they own hotels in Ghana. Hotels, yes. Nobody buys their papers. And they drive the most expensive, in fact, a fleet of houses in Accra here. In Accra. In areas where, with several years, I can't even buy a plot there. Yet they have that. Who doesn't know? Apart from the Soli, look, I met some journalists in Parliament. I said, you guys are Guru Boys journalists. The Guru Boy journalists depend on Soli. Those who are beyond the Guru Boys, there are those they take to the Peduasi Lodge to be given money. There are those who are given. There are those. Oh, of course you are. There are those who are given money every Friday by political appointees. There are those who. No, I'm being honest with you. You see, and it's unfortunate. There are those who will be given money just to re-echo what is satisfactory to the political appointees and authorities. I would just end on this. I have seen members of parliament in parliament at the committee level who demonstrated and continue to demonstrate outstanding level of intellect in terms of the contribution they give. And in fact, some even make statements on the floor. Those statements will never be heard or watched on any television or listened to on any radio. Observe one thing.
Except Pan-African TV.
Except, okay, observe one thing. There are just few of us. When you make statement, and that one, you see it in the TVs, you listen to it on the radio. So the people he represents will tell you that they have never heard him speak. Meanwhile, every single day, their contribution on the floor is the most outstanding contribution for the purposes of progressing this nation. Yet it wouldn't be. Because that journalist has no friend, that politician has no friend in the journalist. Or perhaps he doesn't dole out tips to reporters at Parliament. Oh, I'm being very honest, I'm being very sincere with you. Because sometimes I sit down and I wonder, someone gets up to make contributions and you expect to see that on the TV sets or listen. You won't listen because you have a particular group of MPs. And I must be very honest, my stories, I do, yes, when they even cough. Leadership is understandable, not even leader, you have other. Because every day, and this is what happens. So I'm saying that the journalists, some journalists in this country are fantastically corrupt, just like the politician. I'll give you my last comment. When I moved, between 2008 to 2000 and when NDC won elections under Prof, and I was made the Deputy National Coordinator for National Youth Employment Program, I'm going to demonstrate how corrupt you guys are, journalists. Now, when I became an MP, you journalists, when I became an MP, senior, and I was appointed Deputy Minister for Information, that was 2013, our first appointment. And I used to go to the office on Saturdays. So I'll go to office from Monday to Saturday because you need to prepare against the Monday because of Ministry of Information. I tell people Ministry of Information is the most difficult ministry and is the driest, even basic and cost of running the ministry, the state is not providing. I was in the office one day and a journalist called me. That was the time this NYEP issue came up. The journalist called me and I picked and he said that, oh, I picked some story and you see me, I like you. And that story will come out. If it comes out, it will destroy you. I said, what story? He said, it was about your dealings at NYEP. Theody, I became just angry. Absolutely angry. And I said, my story. I said, if you don't publish it, you are a bastard. Because I knew in the heart of my heart that for the 4 years I worked as Deputy National Coordinator apart from my salary. So you know what he was trying to do? If I had engaged in corrupt act, so he threw it out there without any evidence, so I would have started panicking and then arranged to pay. A lot of the journalists in this country are blackmailers. They blackmail politicians just to get something to do what? To chop. And they do that in any forms. They do that in any shape. And that is the bane of our problem in this country. Why is it that we have had instances where president wants to meet Electoral Commission or they want to meet a group of people and they select some journalists. The criteria they use to select them.
The Ministry of Information selects from
the criteria they use. When they want, exactly, the criteria. So you see, President Mahama, they were, in fact, there is no any government in this Fourth Republic who has been berated with falsehood than President Mahama. The extent to which, the very day President Mahama lost his mother, my brother Manasseh Azure published falsehood against President Mahama in that Ford saga. When he knew, and the facts available that the Ford was given to the fleet, and this was not the first time, President Kufuor had been given same vehicles. And I remember when I was the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union, the AU Summit, in fact, senior comrade is not here, Comrade Kwesi Pratt. You remember when Gaddafi arrived, he came by road. There was a function we had at Legon. 3 of us spoke. Uncle Kwesi spoke first. After him, I spoke as the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union, and after me, Gaddafi spoke. All the vehicles that were brought for the AU Summit, including some donations.
Was it a non-aligned?
Yeah, the AU Summit 2007. Those vehicles, they were donated to personally. They donated those bulletproof vehicles to President Kufuor. Some of them were used, some were put in the fleet of the state vehicles. But I'm saying that, was it a bribe? Now, when a vehicle was given to President Mahama, and he asked that put it in the fleet of the state, Manasseh, a northerner, and I say no, I say a northerner. That's no, I say a northerner because that is what I understand proper as someone who understand our cultural norms and values.
So I don't want to lose the mother.
When somebody loses the mother, I don't want to speak to, I mean, generally, but this is what I understand very well and comfortable. That someone loses the mother, no matter the crime, even if the story was true, you won't publish it that day. And mind you, he had this cooked up long before President Muhammad lost the mother. And the only opportune time he immorally felt he needed to publish it was the day President Muhammad lost the mother. Look, I tell people that we young ones, losing your mother, I don't think that there's anything so painful than that. I'm told the only thing that is also painful than that is when you lose your wife. May Allah give you and our wives very long lives. But I know how I felt, KOD. And that story was published that day. And journalists went to town, regardless how abhorrent it is to our values and culture as a people. They went to town with it. The same Manasseh never published a scintilla of such against this president. He had to look for security protection and at a point had to flee this country. That is the level of intolerance under a government who parades himself as someone who is a human rights advocate, someone who defends the rights of people, yet he never published any story like that.
All right.
So I'm saying that President Muhammad is perfectly fit to condemn this government, that he is making, he's been hypocritical of his preaching. How many journalists haven't we had arrested under this government in bizarre circumstances?
Well, we still have 3 years more to deal with all of these arrests. Hopefully we'll be able to stand the test of time. But let's move on and discuss our last two topics. My time now is 9:43. Hopefully we'll be able to deal with these other two topics. Over 5 million going into Akufo-Addo's 10-day trip abroad. Juxtaposing this with what has been captured on the front page of the Inside newspaper, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who has been on the neck of this administration relative to the travels of Akufo-Addo, has also indicated that Ghanaians are going to pay $77,600 US dollars daily for Akufo-Addo's trips. Very, very interesting times ahead. Let me start with you, Mr. Eneku, on this subject matter, respectfully.
Well, it is not so much about the president traveling, but it's so much about the wanton expenditure which goes into the administration of states, the lack of proper use of the taxes collected, and the need for additional taxes to be heaped upon us. And I'll tell you something, throughout history, plenty of the bane of rulers who lost their rulership of a state has been adding additional taxes in order to, finance their opulent and expensive lifestyle. Whether it is Louis the 16th of France, whose head was cut off, or whoever, Jean Bedar Bokassa, who crowned himself as emperor, and all those things. It's unnecessary expenditure. And when the over expenditure goes along with a policy chaos in the rulership or governorship of the state, in the administration of the state, then it becomes problematic.
Right.
The president is visiting where? France, to do what there in France? He's visiting Guyana to do what in Guyana? He's visiting Germany to do what in Germany? And then coming back to France again, I hear, on this 10-day trip, do we have a performance assessment when the president travels, or when there's a travel by any public officer? Or we are just told that they have traveled and then that is all? We have to swallow it hook, line and sinker. We are not supposed to question it, because when you question it, your language might be misinterpreted deliberately.
Absolutely.
And you might be hauled into the BNI cells or various or any other police station. We have to be careful. People do not want to pay additional taxes when they don't see what the taxes they are paying now does for them. We are even telling lies about the number of people who pay taxes. Everybody in this country pays taxes, so long as you consume VAT-related item. Okay, that's an indirect tax. let's take income tax. You think that the person who roasts plantain, and they taxed, don't they pay a VAT stamp? Don't they pay a business tax to the assembly? They are in Ayawaso here, to the Ayawaso Metro. Why do they pay? They don't charge me that business tax because I'm not performing any business.
Right.
But because they are performing a business, they are to pay those tax. The Kayaye, because they are performing a business, they are charged. The hawkers, because they are performing a business, they are charged. When I take a load of cocoa to the cocoa shed to go and sell it, I made an investment into a cocoa farm. I plucked the cocoa beans, and then I go and sell it to government, and government imposes a tax on every 64 kilograms or bag of cocoa. Isn't that an income tax? Isn't that is a tax on the income I'm going to earn on the work I did in producing that bag of cocoa? So how do you take them out of the fact that they are within the tax bracket? And there are certain people who do not pay tax in this country. They are the rich and powerful. They are those related to power.
True.
Because they are brothers-in-laws or political in-laws or whatever it is. You have foreigners who are not paying their fair share of taxes. They are giving tax holidays. Meanwhile, they are destroying our environment. They are destroying our water. They are destroying our air. They are destroying our forests. They say over 90% of the fishing fleet is owned by foreigners fishing in our country. But look how hard we come upon our fishermen, our local fishermen, who use rudimentary tools to go and fish. And then we import fish on top too. Meanwhile, those trawlers of the foreigners which trawl the sea floor, the seabed, I must say, and take almost everything and destroy a whole lot of sea life and throw it back because they don't need it. They export or re-export the fish on the high seas. Meanwhile, we take our foreign exchange to import $2 million worth of fish into this country. What kind of system are we running? Today, the policeman is shooting. The next day, the president is using huge amounts. There's a presidential jet, but I won't use it. I'll use an executive foreign jet.
You can't do me fuck.
You can't do me nothing. There is absolute impunity in the polity. Absolute impunity by those who think they have power. But like it has been said, power is transient. Power is like an ice block. You can see it melting in your hands. And because we don't want trouble in the land, we expect everybody to be responsible and judicious in the use of power. We have to be responsible. Other than that, when trouble comes, it affects also the innocent. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not right. A little bit about the journalists. You see, there's mercenary journalism and there's developmental journalism. The war cry, the war drums which are being beaten by the United States and the West that the Russians are going to go into Ukraine. They have decided that the Russians will go into Ukraine. It's being funded by a section of the media there. Read all those huge media, the Telegraph, Guardian, Financial Times, Washington Post, New York Times, everything. They are funding it. They are, we have intelligence that, the Russians have stationed troops. Even their foreign minister of Britain says, why has Russia stationed troops in Voronezh and Rostov, which is in Russia? And that they will never recognize those two regions, which is in Russia itself. So, for journalism to thrive, and once upon a time in this country, developmental journalism was the main thing. Going to expose where there's no good drinking water, there's no good hospitals, etc., etc. But now, It's mercenary journalism.
Well, thank you, Mr. Unethical. I'm grateful to you for this submission. Let me come to you, Nananto.
Brakwam.
Yes, sir.
I always call you Brakwam.
Yes, sir.
You know, this country, there's one funny thing going on, but we are not really seeing what's happening. You see the old man. Why am I saying old man? I keep telling you that if someone has retired, you don't have to burden the person with any difficult tax. But instead of him to rest, be playing with his grandchildren, we have added another burden to him. So to him, he feels like, oh, after all, where he has gotten to, what else does he need? I don't care. So the attitude of I don't care is within the old man. That is why, whilst people were demonstrating on the street that we don't need any e-levy, he said, oh, to hell with these people, with these young men. After all, they have the energy. Let them be walking on the street. He sat in a $14,000 chartered flight for 10 days. And Kwame, if you calculate an hour for 10 days, if you calculate, that is $776,000. If you convert it into our own Ghana cedis, that is 4.9 million Ghana cedis.
That can construct the road in my area.
Kwame, not even your area alone. My constituency from Manfi to Ebri, from Manfi to Koforudia, Safuru, Tinkong, and the rest. Go and look at the road. Meanwhile, chunk of the foodstuffs comes from that area. In fact, that area feeds the top people. Yet, the road is bad. And you have a president who is capable of squandering over 4.9 million cedis within 10 days. And then you come and tell me
expenses.
Yes, no, minus expenses, minus the hotel bills and what have you.
And he won't go alone.
He'll go with a team.
So I think this is just the 77 is just for the private jet.
That is it.
All the other ancillary costs.
Yes, Kwame. And you come and tell me, young man, go out there, sweat. Then you deduct, and upon all that, you ask your majority leader, your business, the delegation, the one who sends your business to parliament to cut a cake. E-levy cake. And nobody is even talking about it. So whatever we do, they don't care. After all, I mean, I can't hear me. So that is it. You understand? That is what is. I think that.
I think they stashed the money. So
and
for
you
the
see,
next 6 years they can.
And the ideas are finished. They have hit the wall. So no more better ideas. That's why we will have somebody who will come and tell us that he has shut down the collection of road tolls and he's going to convert that things into a washroom.
Oh, why?
How? I mean, how? You understand? So this attitude of bringing old men into the system to govern. No, I am not. But to be frank with you and to be fair with you, comrade, you have gone on retirement, and I don't think you do any serious business that will make your cognitive be moving left, right, center. That is it. You understand? But look at what is happening. That is why he is saying that, look, the president is telling Ghanaians that, look, after all, where I've gotten to, you need to pamper me. That is it. He has become.
Do me a favor.
Yes, he has become a baby now. He's a baby to Ghanaians. So what do? We need to pamper him. That's why we've been pampering him over the years, and look at where he has gotten us to.
Next time, don't go
he
for
came
that.
the first
Next
time.
Don't go for another about president.
You understand?
That's what I'm saying. That next time, don't go for another about president.
Well, I didn't go for that about president.
Next time, go for a hustler.
I am not.
You know the way some of us we hustle from Asante Mampo to Achimasafu.
You understand? So what the president is doing, to be honest with you, it is annoying. Let me. I don't have any other word to use than to say it's annoying, and we need to condemn it. You understand? So will he come back, stand on any platform and be telling us to convince us to go and pay the e-levy again? I mean, if you do this, what do you expect the young ones to be telling you? Right. That is why I keep saying that, you see, it is these old men who give chance for the young ones to insult them. True. Because somebody will just go and write on his wall, look at what our president is doing, as if he doesn't think. And if you sit somewhere and you say same, they will think, oh, this guy doesn't respect. But it is the truth. Because as old as you are, you need to set a good example. You are telling us that, look, the system is hot. You have accepted that, look, the country, we are broke. And if you are broke, you have to cut down your expenses. And look at what is happening. Look at your expenditure for your what do you call it? The Flagstaff house alone. And just 10 days, look at the amount you are spending. Look at the amount you are spending. Oh. And with all this, oh, 11. You will see some professors and doctors coming to defend that this is national security issues, so we should allow the president. When I see them talk, I ask myself, which classroom did they sit? Because if really they sat in a proper classroom for them to reason properly, they will advise the president that, look, what you are doing, you are making Ghanaians more angry. Anyway, I am not part of their party. Yeah. I don't belong to their party. But everywhere you go,
wrong NPP communication supporting this. Yeah. So you can't just blame because some people are old.
Those young ones, when now they have various titles, professor, doctor. That is it. That's why I'm saying that. You understand? So you people are, when you go to other places, my constituency, for example, you know, it is a MPP dominated area. They keep telling you, Master Papa was say a party, and yet he doesn't listen. He doesn't listen. So I pity the MPP if even in 2024 they can get 10 MPs. I tell you. Oh yes, what is happening? Ghanaians are really angry. If you don't know, Ghanaians are really, really angry.
Are they?
And it is about time. Oh yes.
Are they sufficiently?
Well, if they're not angry enough.
Well,
a country that is angry enough, you see, they are not angry enough. They just say, oh, so 4 years never was to see.
So for me, anyway, I think that.
Let me read a few messages on Facebook. But in total, brilliant submission, love it. Bobo Shanti Clem says the president is going around because he wants to shut Sewa Bruni up and to fix his health issue. Frank Jones says NDC is the cause of all the brutalities. You watch like robots when MPP brought mercenaries to train hooligans. What do you expect? Kingston Bisnab, as Simiga says, I thought they said $200 million worth of fish imported, not 2 million. No, I'm seeing 2 million here. 200 million, okay. All right. Alidu Inusa says the police have provoked the people of Dagbon by chasing people into Yana's palace, and that of the Lamashie Nas palace. Time will definitely tell. Idrisu Alangwami, good morning to you and your cherished viewers. I'm watching you live from Kumungu, Silimboma. My regards to Honorable Alhaji, Kumungu Constituency NDC Youth Organizer. All right, thank you. Frank Jones says, even the Bible is talking about force. NDC watch like defeated soldiers. Waya Gafara says, it's very shameful to date. Ghana has no flight of its own. Kingston Bisnap says, slogans and no ideas. Alex McLean says, Into Nana Into. Good job. I'd like to join you to your village one weekend. George Oshegeji. Too much intelligent people in one program. Mr. KOD, kudos, sir. Kudos. Thank you for watching this morning as well. Now, let me come to you, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, on this subject matter. You have the last straw, so sip all you can.
If in this country, if you can wear the best suit and speak English in a funny way, they will respect you. To be very honest, just forced to slang and perhaps put some
beats, like what Into has done.
Into, the only difference is that Into doesn't wear check socks. And he's not in suit. They have a way they dress.
Slang.
They wear the suits, 3-piece suit. They wear check socks. They have beads in their hands. Yes. And handkerchief here and some. If you do that in this country, you'll be respected. And you speak English in a funny way.
Perfected asset.
And then you had Kofi Annan of blessed memory, who stays in the United States for several years, worked with these people. He never attempted to slang. and you've had several. Nkrumah had education in the UK, and he never forced to slang. He spoke a unique and impeccable English language, and I've always said that you take Nkrumah's books today, the language with which he wrote those books are richer, or is richer than the language with which books are written even today. Look, Cesaro was indeed right, Uncle, when he said that politics was a country idiot. To be very honest with you, this government simply doesn't care. If you want to see proper Yentubia, this is a perfect example. It is beyond that. It is just beyond he being old. We have old men who have demonstrated some wisdom in terms of... Exactly. Some wisdom. It is tied to the story, the issue we discussed earlier about the role and the responsibilities of the media. You have a flight, a presidential jet. That presidential jet, a younger president used it. In fact, President Mahama used it. You came into office and you decide not to use it, yet another African leader needs it. You can give it to the African leader to use. And if you think that sincerely it was not conducive to be used by a president, will you offer it for another president to use? The answer is absolute no. The president knows the kinds of deals he engages in when he moves to those islands, and for which reason he is unwilling to move with a presidential jet. He is willing to move with such jets, pay exorbitant rates, $14,000 per hour. At the very time when we are asking the people of this country to tighten their belts. And that's why I said, those who are asking us to tighten our belts don't even have belt hooks. At the very time when you are telling us that we have to pay e-levy and justify it, distortion as that levy is, you are telling us that we must pay that levy because the economy is crumbling. That same time, your actions are not demonstrable of someone who wants to show the ability and the willingness to do what? To live the life you are expecting the people of this country to live. Pay e-levy, because if we don't pay e-levy, we will not be able to run this economy. Yet the budget you brought, you are demanding that we should approve a budget increasing the number of people working at the presidency to 500. Government machinery, 500 more people. The budget you are bringing for us to work, you are using COVID as a justification. When we're not the only country that was affected by COVID, when none of those countries went to the IMF for $2 billion loan, when none of those countries went to the World Bank for over $100 million grant, when none of them went to the European Union for over 85 million euro facility, when none of them dipped their hands into their consolidated fund, dipped their hands into their infrastructure development fund, dipped their hands into all manner of funds established for the purpose of this country. And as if that was enough, with all these monies you have gone in for, there is nothing to show. You instead reported to us that the Minister of Health used 34 million Ghana cedis of COVID funds to drink tea. The 34 million Ghana cedis was used to hold conferences and workshops. If not drinking tea, what has come out of those conferences and the workshop? Perhaps the only thing that...
They didn't drink cocoa.
No, tea. In fact, if they had drunk cocoa, it would have been better. The only thing that perhaps came out of that drinking of tea with our 34 million Ghana cedis of the COVID funds was the Sputnik fraud engaged by the Minister for Health. And as if that was enough, they have had so much money from the COVID fund that in this 2022 budget, the Minister of Finance is telling us that he is using 54 million Ghana cedis of that money to set up a bank. That is what the minister is telling us. So they simply do not care. If my tree is that good.
Actually very cool.
If you cry, then I do it the more. As we sit today, look, I don't know when anybody will talk about this frontier health thing. It seems to me that I'm the only person talking about it. That is the hypocrisy. The media simply do not care. Uncle, you have Frontier Health, a company that operated fraudulently Because the Minister for Health himself, when he appeared before the appointment committee, said that they operated initially without a license. So that was fraud. And they were charging this money, every $150 charge on anybody who used the airport. The state get only $2. And the company is owned by Nana Asante-Bediatu's wife, the Nigerian wife, and the husband to one of the daughters of the president. And they decided to open an offshore account. The money should not even remain in Ghana. They got another Nigerian bank that takes the money, send the money out, and they make millions of dollars each year. Yet the president is telling us that because of COVID, you need to tighten your belt and pay more. Yet the family members are making money through COVID. And that money is not even allowed to remain in our banks in Ghana. If the monies were to be left in this country, at least it should have shown up the value of our domestic currency.
That's true.
And this mad rush for dollar, for which reason the cedi has lost its value. Anyway, Dr. Bamwe yes said the dollar was arrested and then he locked it and gave the key to the IGP. Unfortunately, the dollar is now a fugitive. It has broken jail. I'm saying that in all this,
it's almost 7 cities.
Exactly. Look, I am telling you, it's almost that.
Pounds
meanwhile,
9 cities.
Meanwhile, the money they pay, the money they pay for the COVID test, it's not even COVID test. The money they pay there, they pay the monies in dollars. They pay online, and that dollars are sent out there just to satisfy the nephew, or is it the cousin of the president, and the husband to the daughter of the president. We've been talking about this. Nobody seemed to care. And on top of this, the president decided that you can cry. I would use the luxurious jets every single day. To be very honest with you, when we raise issues about happenings in other countries, which occasioned unfortunate interactions in those countries, we are sending signal to our president that we ought to act timeously and responsibly, such that we don't experience those things that happen in other countries. When we raise this issue, they say, oh, you are calling for coup. Nobody wants coup. Look, I tell people as a member of parliament, I would be the last person who would want coup. Because the moment there is coup, parliament will be dissolved.
You lose your salary.
I lose my salary. I lose my everything, the ambitions, everything.
They will come after you.
Exactly. So we are simply saying that avoid things that would give some miscreant police or military officer somewhere to engage in such criminal act using your conduct as a justification. And that is why we are demanding this to be done. Kiodi, go and see the graduates. Ghanaian graduates who are working there. Do you know how much they pay them? 837 Ghana cedis.
Where?
COVID. Those who are doing the COVID test. And they got people from Noguchi. How can you take $150 on anybody and you give the government of Ghana, the airport company, $2? It simply doesn't make sense.
Thank you very much, Comrade Murtala Mohammed. And you've ended the conversation well for us. We appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Justice Ekufu for your time. And thank you, Nananto, for your time. Ambassador Sampiele says, good submission, Ejanto. I'm sure he's watching. Thank you very kindly for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. It's been an absolute pleasure serving you with today's edition. And let me say a big thank you to those who were able to send in their messages. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you for watching. Now, let me remind you finally that it's important that you start investing in properties. You start with, first of all, acquiring a piece of land. And I want to introduce to you Trassaco Springs. Trassaco Springs is offering you a very good deal where you can now purchase a piece of land and pay it over a period. So make sure you call them 055-659-2658. 055-659-2658. Don't panic anymore when you hear the name Trassaco, because they are making sure that they expand their base, they cast their net wide, so everybody can get opportunity to buy properties. That's the advert you're seeing on your screens now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you enjoy your day. My name again is Kwame Owusu-Danso. Stay with us.
And payment terms. Trassaco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives